And hello viewers, and welcome back. I'm your humble host, Josh24214, and once again we're continuing with the Magic Core set of 2021. We're on the second day of the spoilers, and yeah, I know I delayed this. This should have come out yesterday, but you know how this schedule is. So we got a lot of cards spoiled to us yesterday, so we're going to do day 2, and let's go through the very long list. It even includes the Planeswalker decks, and which Planeswalkers we're getting for the set, but I think I'm going to try and make it its own separate video just talking about the Planeswalkers. So before we start, I hope you subscribe and like this video, and let's get started, shall we? Okay. 3, 2, 1, go. And right off the bat, we get our first card of the first spoilers, and it's called Bad Deal. And it's a sorcery spell that costs 4 generic and 2 black, and it's a sorcery card. And it says you draw 2 cards, and each opponent discards 2 cards. Each player loses 2 life. So it's a way to do damage and you still get cards. I think it does include all players loses 2 life, so you'll take the 2 damage as well, but hey, draw value is always good, getting 2 extra cards, trying to catch up a little bit, and it has a bit steep of a mana cost of 6 mana, so yeah, yeah. It's just a sorcery card, and that lets you draw 2 cards and damage everybody for 2, so nothing much to talk about. So the next card is a blue creature called Jeskai Elder. Jeskai Elder for 1 generic and 1 blue creature, human monk, and it has the Prowless. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature gets a 1/1 until end of turn. And its ability is whenever Jeskai Elder deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. And its power is 1 and toughness is 2. So this card will let you draw a card, but you have to discard a card at the beginning of the. If you can get this guy out early, as soon as turn 2, you could get some good cards, good card draw value. But you would have to discard a card, so that's a bit of a negative on that subject. But it can be easily gotten rid of with a shock or one of the red spells that'll damage Elder, so yeah. And I know the next card here is going to. Okay, so yeah, the next card here is called Reign of Relevation, and it's a instant for 3 generic and 1 blue, and its ability is called Draw 3 cards, then discard a card. So it's just a way of gaining value by drawing 3 cards, but still you still have that negative to discard 1 card. Could be something that is useless, but overall it's just nothing, just an instant spell, so it's nothing that big. Okay, the next card, it's called Shipwreck Dowser, and it's a creature for 3 generic and 2 blue. It's a creature merfolk wizard. It has Prowless. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature gets a 1/1 until end of turn. Its ability is when Shipwreck Dowser enters the battlefield, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. If you manage to its power is 3 and its toughness is 3, so any good red spell can get rid of it. But if it would be very good for like my for blinking it out back into your hand and then casting it out again. But that cost of 5 mana would it is Shipwreck could be very powerful if you can make a good combo with it. And I know there is, but I don't want to say it because that'll be painful to get through. Okay, so the next card is called Llanowar Visionary. For 2 generic and 1 green, creature, elf druid, and is common. When Llanowar Visionary enters the battlefield, draw a card. And it also has tap this card to get green mana, and it's a power of toughness of 2. Power of toughness is 2. So, yeah, Llanowar Visionary is just basically a tap for mana, just mana ramp, and you get a free card. If you can blink it over and over, you can draw more cards. So, yeah, it's just another tapper for elves if you're playing with an elf deck. So, yeah, pretty standard for elves. So the next card is Primordial Might, and its generic mana cost is X, and it's 1 green mana for a sorcery. Target creature you control gets a XX until end of turn. Then it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. So the X is equal to the number of generic mana you add into it, and it gets a huge power boost until end of turn. And you get to fight up to 1 creature, and it's a sorcery. So this could be very powerful late game. So keep that in mind. And the next card is a white card, and it's called Pack Leader for 1 generic and 1 white, and it's a creature dog. And its ability is other dogs you control get a 1/1, so he's a tribal leader for dogs. Whenever Pack Leader attacks, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn to dogs you control. And his power of toughness is 2. So yeah, we finally get a tribal leader for dogs. And it's also official that hounds are technically called dogs now as far as rules binding goes, as far as I know. So yeah, I can see a dog tribal deck will be coming out very soon, and there is a commander card for dogs, I think in this new set. Yeah, new set for dogs. Okay, the next card for the set is a red card called Mayhem Gesture for 4 generic and 1 red creature devil. And its ability is whenever you sacrifice a permanent, Mayhem Gesture deals 1 damage to any target, and its power and toughness is 5. And I can see him be part of an aristocrat's deck, but probably good for aristocrat's deck or a devil deck if there's a tribal leader for it. So yeah. So yeah, this guy can be used for aristocrats types of decks, but it's very powerful for that 5/5. Okay, the next card is a legendary creature. So it is called Gadrak the Crown-Scourge for 2 generic and 1 red. Legendary creature dragon, so you can use him in Brawl or Commander. And Gadrak has flying, and his special ability is Gadrak the Crown-Scourge cannot attack unless you control 4 or more artifacts. So you need a lot of 4 artifacts to stay there, so you can use Gadrak to attack, but he can block until then. And another special ability, at the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each non-token creature that died this turn. And it's an artifact with the tap the artifact to sacrifice, add 1 mana of any color, and his power is 5 and his toughness is 4. And yeah, I can see with, unless you would have to make sure that you don't destroy any creatures while Gadrak is on the field, so he wouldn't get that treasure token and get enough tokens for him to be able to attack. And he could be easily destroyed with red sorcery spells, and you know the basics. Just blow him up with a lava coil or something like that. Okay, this next one. And this one's a legendary artifact, and it's called Chromatic Orrery. Chromatic Orrery. It's generic. The cost is 7 generic mana, legendary artifact. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color. Tap this card for 5 normal, 5 generic mana. And another ability that requires 5 mana, tap the card, draw a card for each color among permanents you control. And this one's a huge mana rock with 5 generic when you tap it, and it is a pretty big cost to tap it for 7, and I could see this card be in Commander and it'll make the whole thing go nuts. And there is a video that talks about Chromatic Orrery a lot, so I'll probably put it up there as a link to another video, and I have seen that video, so yeah, it's kind of crazy. With that, I can see this card be in Commander, so that's going to be nuts. Okay, so the next card we have a multicolor creature, and it's called Indulging Patrician. And it's a 1 generic, 1 white, 1 black creature, vampire noble with flying, and it has lifelink. Damage dealt by this creature also causes you to gain that much life. And its special ability is, at the beginning of your end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, each opponent loses 3 life. So yeah, this card can be very used, and it has a power of 1 and toughness of 4, so it's a good blocker. And I could see this card being comboed with other vampires or aristocrats that'll let you take life from and gain life from opponents. So yeah, I'll probably be using this card when it eventually comes out with Magic Arena. So yeah, aristocrats or a life gaining deck, and it does have a bit of a sanguine bond kind of thing. Funny enough, there is like a sanguine bond type card in this set that I've seen. So yeah, I can see this one being vampire decks from now on. So the next card is another instant, and it's called Plunge. For 1 generic and 1 black instant, destroy target planeswalker or creature with converted mana cost less than or equal to 3. So yeah, Plunge can get rid of planeswalkers that only has generic mana cost of 3 only, not the more higher ones, so don't give your hopes up on that. So it's just another way of getting rid of those nasty planeswalkers with 3 or less, not the 3 or more, because you'll still have to deal with that, so it's just a way of getting rid of that. So next we have another creature called Quirion Dryad. For 1 generic and 1 green creature, Dryad, and her ability is whenever you cast a spell that's white, blue, black, or red, put a 1/1 counter on Quirion Dryad. And it does have a power and toughness of 1. So, yeah. So it could be any spell which it has white, blue, black, or red. So it's good for being in Brawl or Commander. But it's could get very big. Like in the beginning, if you don't take care of Dryad quickly, it could be very massive. So our next card is Peer into the Abyss, and it's a sorcerer for 4 generic and 3 black. Sorcery and its ability, target player draws cards equal to half the number of cards in their library and lose half their life. Round up each time. So yeah, this is a big card that Rosewater mentioned in one of his hints, that you can draw basically half your deck. And this card can be very powerful, but the cost that you would have to draw half your deck. So if you get into turn 7 and you play this, and if you're playing a commander, you would have to draw at least right around 50, and you would have to discard your entire hand and round it down to 7 again. And that's a huge waste unless you have a card that says you have no hand size. So I can't see this card being useful in standard unless a card that says you have no hand size, because that hand size card will be permanently not very good. So it's kind of a big risk versus reward. Or you could use it against your opponent, unless your opponent would eventually find a way to get back into the game with those many cards. So yeah, it's kind of a bit of a double-edged sword on that one. Okay, the next card, we got another legendary creature, and it's called Rune and Shiri Interseparable. Inseparable. For 1 generic, 1 red, 1 green, 1 white. Legendary creature, Dog Cat, and its ability, whenever you cast a dog spell, create a 1/1 green cat creature token. Whenever you cast a cat spell, draw a 1/1 white dog creature token. And another ability with 1 red, 1 green, 1 white, and tap the card for Rin and Shiri, deals damage to any target equal to the number of dogs you control. You gain life equal to the number of cats you control. And its power and toughness is 4. And yeah, I could see this card being basically a token generator. So this card is a token generator, and that spell by tapping it could be very powerful if you got lots of dogs and cats. So yeah, this card was designed for also with the dog commander, the dog tribal part for it. So I can see those two cards being together like in Brawl and Commander, at least. And moving on, for the next card we have Containment Priest. For 1 generic, 1 white creature, human clerk with flash, so you can play this as an instant instead of doing it the normal way. If a non-token creature would enter the battlefield and it wasn't cast, exile it instead. And it has a power of toughness of 2. So would enter the battlefield and it wasn't cast, exile instead. So I'm kind of a little confused on the wording on this card. I probably would have to see other players play this card to see what this card exactly does. So I'm a little lost at the moment with that. So yeah, that's I don't think it would be good for a human deck, but yeah, just a little. The wording doesn't make sense to me, but I could be wrong. So yeah, next card. The next card we got, it is called, and it's one of the Planeswalkers, for this set, and it's basically the big head of the set dedicated to this planeswalker. It is Teferi, Master of Time, for 2 generic and 2 blue, legendary planeswalker Teferi. And yeah, he is a very powerful card if you know how to use him right. The Master of Time. And he's got a special ability automatically saying you may activate loyalty abilities of Teferi, Master of Time, on any player's turn anytime you would cast an instant. So in clarification, Teferi can activate his ability twice if you're playing a 2-player game. So when you play Teferi the first time, you can do the basic activate his ability and then pass the turn. And when it's on the opponent's turn, you can basically activate Teferi on your opponents as well, as long as it's at any time as an instant. So I can see this card get super busted. And it would be crazy for 4-player games, for like 4 players in Commander, having basically like at least 4 loyalty, having his loyalty go up by 4 in a 4-player game. So yeah, and we haven't even gotten to the loyalty. His starting total in loyalty is 3, and his +1 ability that you can play at any times is called, will do, draw a card, then discard a card. So Teferi Master of Time will let you get a card, then discard a card, and you can do that for on your opponent's side of the turn if you want to. Basically, it's a very good draw value, and that's going to generate a lot of hate. And the next ability is a -3 ability, and it's what people are freaking about this Planeswalker special ability for -3. Target creature you don't control phases out. Treat it and anything attached to it as though they don't exist until the controller's next turn. So it'll basically just like phase out, like disappear, and it will not be there until when it's your opponent's turn. It'll just pop right back in, so it can't basically do anything. So yeah, that could be crazy if you could do it on your opponent's turns. Like nope, you can't attack with that card. That card no longer exists until the end of your turn, until your opponent's next turn. So yeah, Teferi's got basically a good defense, but it's a big cost right away. And you would have to, and his ultimate is -10, so you have to get through 7 turns with Teferi in order to activate this. And it's a good one. His ultimate is take 2 extra turns after this one. So yeah, Teferi is kind of busted if you know how to do it right and try, but it would take a long time for Teferi to reach his ultimate. So as long as you can stop Teferi before he reaches his 10, and that's going to be a little easy, but as long as he doesn't, if he could be very good after a board wipe, so I can see this in Commander play. So yeah, the Teferi Master of Time is basically the focus. Teferi is the main focus of the Teferi set, basically for card 2021, mentioned by Rosewater. Okay, the next card, it is called Teferi's Ageless Insight for 2 generic and 2 blue. Legendary enchantment. If you would draw a card except the first one you draw in each of your draw steps, draw 2 cards instead. So this card and Teferi Master of Time would be very powerful. You would be able to draw 3 cards from that Planeswalker if you combine it. So yeah, I can see this guy paired with Master of Time. And mostly the next 2 cards after this one is basically all focused on Teferi. And all those cards will have like an alternative art style in the style of Teferi's style. And I will admit that the art for Teferi Master of Time looks really damn good. Okay, the next card is another enchantment, but not a legendary, and it's Teferi's Tutelage for 2 generic and 1 blue. When Teferi Tutelage enters the battlefield, draw a card, then discard a card. Whenever you draw a card, target opponent mills 2 cards. They put the top 2 cards into their from their library to their graveyard. And this is just a way of milling people to death. So yeah, I can see this card being played and these 3 cards be played. And Teferi's gonna draw a lot of hate from everybody when this set comes out. My god, it's evil. Okay, the next card is Teferi's Protege for 2 generic and 1 blue, creature, human wizard, and its ability is 1 generic, 1 blue, and tap the card, draw a card, then discard a card, and its power is 2 and its toughness is 3. So these 4 cards are part of the Teferi set, including the land. That looks freaking good for Teferi. Not gonna hate it, but yeah, the whole blue. And you do see it as a spoiler, but it was looking very good when it comes out, so it's probably going to be an alternative lands. So yeah, still drawing in that hate with the mill and the special abilities of a Teferi, so unless you've got a good enchantment destroyer to prevent that, so yeah. Okay, so the next card is called Sparkhunter Masticore for 3 generic artifact creature Masticore, and its special ability as an additional cost to cast this spell, discard a card, and this card has protection from planeswalkers, so its special abilities will not work on it. And it's got more special abilities. For 1 mana, Sparkhunter Masticore deals 1 damage to target planeswalker, and for 3 generic, Sparkhunter Masticore gains indestructible until end of turn for a power of 3 and toughness of 4. And this will help you deal with planeswalkers, like making them a little bit weaker if you can play it out. So yeah, a little way of protecting yourself from all the planeswalkers from the standard set and Commander and Brawl. So yeah. So let's continue with our next Planeswalker character, who's being officially joining into this set, and it's an oldie that we haven't seen for a while. We have Liliana, Walker of the Dead, for 2 generic and 2 black, legendary Planeswalker Liliana. And yeah, we haven't seen her for quite some time, ever since the end of War of the Spark. And yeah, I would be able to go into backstory of what's going on with Liliana, and she's like away on another plane at the moment and getting into the lore. And I'll probably show you a link to someone who is talking about can get you caught up on the huge backstory on what's going on with Liliana at the moment. So yeah, so she's back, and her special ability, she starts out with 4 loyalty, and her +1 ability is each player discards a card, each opponent who cannot loses 3 life. So yeah, it's a good way of, so it's going to get rid of a card from your hand. If they can't do it, then they automatically lose 3 life. So if they don't have a draw value to catch up, so yeah, they'll be permanently stuck behind. Okay, then her next ability is the -3 ability that target creature gets -X. Hold on. I can't really tell it. Yeah, it's -3. Target creature gets -X -X until end of turn, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard. So this is a good removal spell for getting rid of very powerful creatures as long as you got a lot of creatures in your graveyard. Number of cards, so it could be instant, sorcery, and all those other cards or lands. So yeah, I could see Leonada's -3 be a good removal as well. For creatures, I mean. The next ability is her ultimate. It's -7, so you have to plus Liliana for 3 times. And her ability is you get an emblem with, at the beginning of combat on your turn, put target creature card from a graveyard into the battlefield under your control. It gains haste, so you'll automatically revive a creature from any graveyard in the game. So it could be any card from the graveyard, any creature card from your opponent's graveyard. Like, you can get a very big creature from their graveyard and use it against them, and it'll automatically get haste. So I can say Liliana. I know I'm botching how to pronounce it because I don't know. Okay, the next card we have Ruined Halo for 2 white, and it's an enchantment, and its ability is, as Ruined Halo enters the battlefield, choose a card name. You have protection from the chosen card name. You can't be targeted, dealt damage, or enchanted by anything with that name. So yeah. So you can stop a specific card, and you would automatically have protection. Like, you, the player, I think, will automatically be protected. I'm not sure if it affects creatures or not, but it could work for that too. And the next card is another reprint, and I have been forgetting to say what's a reprint or not. So yeah, I'm sorry about that. So the next card is a artifact, Tormod's Crypt, for mana cost of 0. And it's an artifact. When you tap it, sacrifice Tormod's Crypt, exile all cards from target player's graveyards. And yeah, this card can be very powerful if you're dealing with a player who's using the graveyard as their hand. You can just say, nope, all those cards are exiled. You're never getting them back and playing them back. So yeah, I can see this card being that strong against those types of players or dealing with the escape mechanic from Theros Beyond Death. Okay, the next card is Firen's Fierchin's Empath for 2 generic 1 green creature elf. When Empath enters the battlefield, you may search your deck for a creature card with converted mana cost of 6 or greater, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your library for a powered toughness of 1. So basically it's just a tutor card to find whatever powerful creature you have with 6 or more in its mana cost. So I can say this one being like a very big green deck, and you can get a very powerful creature for 6 or greater. But sadly, you can't put it onto the field. That's a good thing as long as you can get rid of the card in your opponent's hand. They would have to ramp a lot to get that to work. Okay, the next card is so Empath was a reprint. This next one's another imprint from a set a long time ago. And it's called Azula Lost But Seeking for 2 generic and 1 green legendary creature human monk. And her special ability is you may play 2 additional lands on each of your turns. So yeah, it's basically a huge mana ramp unless you've got more lands in your hand. So you can play those at least 2. So if you got 3 lands, you can play 3 lands every turn if you've got like a crap ton of lands, and that's going to give you a lot of ramp. So Azula would be very powerful for a green deck. And she came from the Kamigawa set from a very long time ago, like and that's like in the 90s, if I recall, but I could be wrong. So yeah, that's a very big card coming back, so yeah, and it's in standard and brawl at the moment, so better make sure you get those cards before the set rotates. Okay, another reprint, and it's another reprint from something from a very long time ago, and it's a tutor card, and it's called Grim Tutor for 1 generic and 2 black sorcery. And its ability is search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, then shuffle your library, but you lose 3 life. And it's a mythic card now. So Grim Tutor was made like I said, a long time ago. Now it's getting reprinted, and that's cool. Another tutor with the return of another tutor from Theros Beyond Death. And this card can be any card in your deck. So yeah, you can get your bits of your combo pieces together. And the last final card of day 2 is another legendary creature, and it's called Vito, Thorn of the Dusk. Thorn of the Dusk Roast for 2 generic, 1 black legendary creature, vampire clerk. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. For 3 generic and 2 black, creatures you control gain lifelink until the end of the turn. But it's very weak with 1 power and toughness of 3, and Vito is basically Sanguine Bond, another cheap way of getting Sanguine Bond in today's economy. So yeah, very good with another combo piece. I know there's a way of getting combo pieces together in order to use Sanguine Bond and another card to basically kill a player easily. So yeah, very good for a life deck, for vampire deck, or if you got a aristocrats, they'll let you get gain life and then take life, and you can cause a chain effect over and over again, and that's going to be very crazy for that player. So Vito will draw a lot of hate. So, and that's day 2, unfortunately. And I know it's been a long video, so hopefully the 3rd day won't be super as long. And Planeswalker decks, spoilers, a few Planeswalker decks have been spoiled, and we're getting a few Planeswalkers that we have not seen returning. So give me a. So we're getting, for white, we got Basri from day 1, and he's got a 6 total card of mana cost for Basri. And we'll talk about those Planeswalker cards if you guys want me to talk about the Planeswalker decks and what I think are very good. We have Basri. For blue is Teferi, because yeah, Teferi needs to be part because this is basically his set for Core Set 2021. Don't know if the lore is going to be added and see what these characters have been doing since the last time we've seen them. The next for black is Liliana. For her, so all these Planeswalker decks are generic mana cost of 4 and their respected 2 color. Liliana. We have for red, Chandra coming back. We have been getting a lot of Chandra cards from War. We haven't seen her since War of the Spark. So yeah, she's coming back. And for green, we got the first return of Gadrak from Throne of Eldraine. And those who haven't not in the know, Gadrak is basically back to normal, and getting into the lore of him is kind of crazy. What he's been doing, he did come back for Throne of Eldraine, seen in the trailer. It was awesome seeing him again in Throne of Eldraine. He's back to normal, and he's lost his black, so he's basically green again. So I can see a lot of fans of this character going nuts seeing Gadrak is back to his prime once again. So yeah, if you guys want me to talk about their Planeswalker cards for their Planeswalker deck, just let me know. And until then, I will see you for day number 3. So until then, have a good day, everybody, and I'll see you on the very next video. So bye for now.